All right, let's do it live on a Football Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. Browns and Raiders tomorrow. Raiders en route to Cleveland. A lot has changed since we got off the air last night as the list continued to grow and grow and grow. Z joins me via telephone right now, and just to get a lay of the land of where we are, I almost think it's better to say who is still available to play rather than who is not from a starter standpoint. And I was just doing some notes of my own, and if there's someone that needs to be added to this, please do so. But do I have this right? JC, Joel, Nick, Donovan on offense, Miles, Jadeveon, Denzel, JOK on defense?
Well, I think you could look at it, and Beau, great to be with you, obviously. And things have changed rapidly following the testing that occurred following yesterday's practice, thus following our show. And so from an offensive standpoint, in terms of typical starters, I think you say Joel Bitonio, J.C. Tretter, you're right, Nick Chubb, Andy Janovich, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then defensively, Myles Garrett, Malik Jackson, Jadeveon Clowney, Owusu Koromoa, Taki, if we're into our base package, and then Denzel Ward. And, you look at this team now and where you are as I hold the depth chart in front of me, and I've got everybody who is out for this game highlighted in yellow. There's a whole heck of a lot of yellow on this sheet. And so you're going into this game right now against the Raiders, and here's what it looks for you on offense. Here's how it looks. Your line, Blake Hance, Bitonio, Tretter, Michael Dunn, and then James Hudson. Your tight ends are going to be the Chief, Harrison Bryant, and Miller Forrestall. Receivers, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood Higgins, Demetric Felton, Jamarcus Bradley, and Lawrence Cager. Your running backs, Nick Chubb, and you're going to have to lean on him and Dearness Johnson a lot against this Raiders team that struggles to stop the run. In the last 4 weeks, has given up about 150 total yards and 2 touchdowns per game to the running back room. And by the way, here's a little fun fact. The Raiders have lost every game this year in which they've allowed an opponent running back to rush for more than 100 yards. And then Andy Janovich at fullback, and I've left, of course, the best for last quarterback. No Baker. Case test positive yesterday, so it looks unlikely for Case Keenum as well. Nick Mullins will be your starting quarterback, and Mullins, in his NFL debut, actually played the Raiders back in 2018, went 16 of 22 for 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 151 in a big 30, I think it was 38-3, 34-3, something like that, win over the Raiders. So he's got that going for him. And we brought in Kyle Lauletta now, who was with us throughout the preseason and played very, very well. He is back to be the backup. At least he has some familiarity with this offense. And then, you take it to the defensive side of the ball. And, today the news that there were 2 more positives on defense. And you hate to be down linebackers, but I said, I sure hope it's linebackers because you don't have enough guys. If it was one of our premier pass rushers, that really hurts our defensive line. And we just don't have guys left in the secondary to lose at this point. And so now today with Mac Wilson and Tony Fields also making the list, here's what you have defensively. Myles Garrett and Clowney at defensive end, and I'm guessing Porter Gustin and Joe Jackson will both be activated for this game. So I'll give you 4 defensive ends. Your defensive tackles, Malik Jackson, Jordan Elliott, Sheldon Day, and Tommy Togiai. So 4 there, 4 of your top 5 at that spot. Linebackers, you're down to just 4 of them. Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoa, Sione Takitaki, Malcolm Smith, and Elijah Lee. Your base is going to be Owusu-Koromoa, Smith, and Taki at the Sam. I would imagine your nickel is going to be Owusu-Koromoa and Malcolm Smith together, the veteran. So at least you've got a veteran there. And then at the defensive back position at the corners, you've got Denzel Ward, you've got Greedy Williams. You're going to have Herb Miller up again, and I'm guessing Brian Allen, who was just added to the team this week, up again. Again, he was with you throughout training camp as well, just because you need bodies there. And you're going to need guys on special teams with all these linebackers that are out. And all your safeties, your top 3 safeties are out, Ronnie Grant, John Johnson. So that leaves you with M.J. Stewart, Javante Moffitt, Richard LeCount, and then Tedrick Thompson, who you signed this week. So that's what you've got for the Cleveland Browns. That's what you are working with as of now. It is possible with some of the changes to the protocols that the Browns could get some guys back in time for Saturday. I would not hold your breath on that, but it's based on the cycle, the CT, which is the number that I was getting when I had mine, and I didn't know what it meant, but I knew as soon as you got back to 40, you were good. They're saying 35 is actually the level at which you cannot transmit anymore, and so when our guys get to 35, they have an opportunity to cycle out if they can test negative. So that's what you're hoping for. That's what you need. We'll see if that happens. It still feels unlikely to me, but at least the possibility exists for the Browns to get some guys back when they get ready to take on this Raiders team.
superb job by you kind of going through everything that's in front of this football team, and you still feel, I know it probably sounds crazy to people, but I still feel pretty good about the roster here, and it speaks to the overall depth. Obviously, what's happened at safety and corner is particularly alarming, and safety especially, obviously, when you're talking about your top three safeties all likely out of this game. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't know that a team could be in a better situation with a third-string quarterback. And I know what the counter to that is, well, sure, how many times do you actually get to see a third-string quarterback? Well, that's my point. You're going to have a third-string quarterback playing, and he's played in the league and had success, and has, by the way, had success in this type of offense with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So that is, look, this ain't great, guys. We're trying to make a little bit of chicken salad here, but you can at least see a roadmap where there's something that makes sense for this game on Saturday. There's all sorts of conversations around the league. Jerry Jones was on radio down in Dallas talking about, we could get to a point as early as next week where we're not testing, asymptomatic, vaccinated, boosted individuals, that's something that could that's not going to do us any good because where you're at is Friday right now at, 1:07, the Las Vegas Raiders, who from the conversations I was hearing this morning, they weren't crazy about playing this game. The Raiders aren't crazy about this either because they don't want to get, as fast as this variant is going from person to person, they don't want to be in the situation next week that we're in this week. So that's another part of it. But this game's going to be played, it appears, come hell or high water, and so it's just going to be a matter of what it looks like for the Browns. And this is a wild circumstance. We're talking upwards of 22 players. Do I have that right? 22 players on our list?
Yeah, count the practice squad guys as well. Yeah, you are right about that. And look, part of what Jerry Jones was talking about there is why the Browns are in the situation that they are in fact, as it relates to yesterday. And so the Browns, you touched on a couple things. One, the Browns and the NFL had said to the Browns, as Pro Football Talk had reported, look, we're not going to test the vaccinated asymptomatic guys. So the Browns thought there was no testing yesterday. And then the league changed course as the NFLPA got involved. And so maybe that evolution comes, but it will do us nothing this week. And in fact, the fact that they tried to kind of get that in and get that going hurt the Browns even more because there were no tests before practice. So you go through practice with Case Keenum, and then he tests positive after, and now he's out. So had the Browns tested in the morning and Case tested positive in the morning, Nick Mullins would have been able to get those reps with the team in the one practice for the week. So while I believe in Nick Mullins very much, Pedro is a big fan of Nick Mullins as well. He's not afraid of the moments. The guy, 64.5% completions. He's thrown for in 16 games, 4,700 yards. Like, just think about that, folks. That's just hair under 300 a game. Quarterback rating in the 80s. He's thrown more than 20 touchdowns. He's got 5 wins under his belt. He does have a fourth quarter comeback and a game-winning drive under his belt. So he's not afraid to throw it. Now, he does have over 20 touchdowns, also 20 interceptions. So he's got to make sure he takes care of the football. But he didn't get any reps. He got all the scout team reps yesterday working against our defense. Now, the good news is you could say our defense does play a lot of cover 3. The Raiders play a ton of cover 3. So at least he got some cover 3 looks. But Nick Mullins is going to be thrown into the fire, and the Browns have to be ready for it. And that's, why you're going to lean on Nick Chubb and why you're going to lean on Dearness Johnson, because if you look at this Raiders team, their strength is rushing the passer with their 2 ends. Max Crosby got the highest pressure rate in the league. Yannick Ngakoue, 9 sacks. Both at one point or another have been the AFC Defensive Player of the Week with multiple sack games. Ngakoue is a great sack strip artist, third most in the league since coming in the league behind only T.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. But they are not great run defenders, specifically Ngakoue, as we talked about. He's the worst at grade run defensive grade in the NFL at a defensive end position at Pro Football Focus this season. So get behind Blake Hance, run the ball, and then give Mullins a chance to work the middle of the field against their linebackers and their safeties who struggle in coverage, and they'll be without their top tackler in Denzel Perryman. There is a roadmap. Is it fair? No. Browns fans, of course, you are right about that. This is not fair. But I kind of like that nobody's giving the Browns a chance. I kind of like the way that this team, and I thought what David Njoku said on Twitter yesterday, but it was phenomenal. Like, F it. Let's just go beat them anyway. That's the mentality. Find a way. F it, dude. Let's go bowling. We got to go out there and roll some rocks against these Raiders.
We do have to roll some rocks. Got to have a sense of humor in these times, guys, because it's just so crazy. What's going on. You hit on something that needs to be kind of, I think needs a little bit more attention to it, and I've struggled, and I've talked to current and former players in the last 24, 36 hours about this. The more testing is coming from the PA side of this, and I don't know what the I'm not sure what the reason for that is or why that is happening at the rate that it is. You hit on that in terms of the reason we were tested, after practice as opposed to before practice, and also Jerry Jones's comments of something that could happen as soon as next week if the NFL owners have their say. This is something, though, that you have to contend with in this league in real time because everything's collectively bargained. So when these COVID rules were put in place, it was all the way back in July and August, when you were dealing with a Delta variant. Well, now this is a different variant. It's got a different way of going about its business. It's far more transmissible. At this point, doesn't seem to be nearly as dangerous as the Delta was. But it's far more transmissible, and the symptoms are far less severe based on what we've seen to this point in this. So this is where you're at, and the rules have not adjusted from what they were set in July and August, wherever that was. And there probably needed to be one, but it's not something where you can just unilaterally say, okay, here's an adjustment, this has evolved, this is where we are now, let's move it. This all has to be collectively bargained anytime you want to change a rule like this in the NFL.
Yeah, and then J.C. Tretter, as the president of the NFLPA, believes that he is acting in the interest of the union that he represents, and so his focus is on player safety, and they want daily testing from the NFLPA side of it. And so, yeah, you are a little bit at odds with what is going on here. We heard Miles say that, he thought a situation like this could have been prevented with daily testing, and others would say could have been prevented by not testing, vaccinated asymptomatic players. It's a tough situation. I don't know that there's a right answer. I could care less to even speculate on what is or what should be. It's the situation that the Browns are in, and any change that's made is actually going to benefit everybody but the Browns, the Rams, and probably the Washington football team as this thing kind of really kicks into gear, I would imagine, around the league next week. I don't think this is going to be an isolated thing that just the Cleveland Browns experience. And so, yeah, the NFL's got to try to figure out how they are going to deal with this, how they are going to handle it. And, you mentioned talking with players, and I talked with players. I talked with Browns coaches last night. And what I love about this organization, to be honest with you, it's kind of what Chief said, and in talking to some of the coaches as well, is they were just like, listen, you know what, like, it doesn't matter. We're solution-oriented. We've got to just keep adjusting and get the plan that gives us the best chance of winning. And so that's it. Like, there's no crying about it because at this point the league's making it happen. We could argue all day whether that's fair or not. I think it's obvious what the answer is. But I kind of like the mentality that's here right now. I like the coaching staff that we have to get guys ready to go. I like the fact that we still have – it's not the NBA, but our top stars for the most part, of course, not all of them. You don't have your quarterback or his backup. You don't have Jarvis Landry out there, who you would love to have. You don't have any of your safeties. These are huge losses. Let's not kid ourselves. But you still have defensively, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney against a team that struggles to protect his quarterback and struggles to run the football. You still have Denzel Ward out there. You still have Greedy, who's played at a high level. You still have JOK out there who flies around. And so this is one of those games where stars are going to have to be stars. Batonio and Tretter up front are going to have to be stars. The Chiefs got to be a star, paving the way for Nick Chubb, who's arguably the best player on the field, along with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, period, for either team. And so we have got to figure out a way to kind of overcome this stuff, find a way to go out there and win. And I think it's real clear what you want to do against the Las Vegas Raiders is you want to squeeze the football. You want to possess the football, keep their offense on the sideline. You got to generate takeaways. They're averaging 2 giveaways a game here over their last 6 in a stretch that they're 1-5. And you got it, like I said, when you hold them under 20 this year, they're 0-7. When you give them 20 points or more, they're 6-0. When you possess the football for more than 30 minutes against the Raiders are 1-7. When they have it for more than 30, they are 5-0. And this is a far different team. This Raiders team far different than it was a year ago when it came here in bad weather, bad conditions, ran for over 200 yards against the Browns, and they were the more physical team. We have the chance to be physical. We're going to be starting an offensive line with really, 3 guards, a center, and then a guy that's a very physical tackle who used to be a defensive lineman. So if we have anything going for us, it should be that push up front and give the ball to Nick Chubb and let's just go. And we're going to have to be aggressive. We're going to have to play field position at times. We're going to have Chase McLaughlin hit all of his field goal attempts. We're going to have to take advantage when we get into the red zone against the worst red zone defense in the NFL by punching it in for touchdowns like we did last week against the best red zone defense in the NFL. We went 2 for 2 down there. That was the difference in the game. We've got to take advantage of that here today.
If you think of 4 categories, 4 levels, great, good, decent, poor, and you go around all of our position groups and you grade them out, and you use that as great, good, decent, poor, and you start at tight end, I feel like good. You're in a good spot there. You got Chief, you got Harrison Bryant, that's good. Running back, great.
Great.
Nick Chubb, Dearness Johnson, man, great. Janovich, put him in there too. Receiver room, decent. Decent. Offensive line room, decent.
I'd still say good. I mean, I think that's still better than the majority of the lines in the league. I don't know if that's more of a comment on offensive line play or if it's a comment on, what we've got. But I think that's still decent to good. Yeah, fair.
Decent to good. And then quarterback is decent to poor.
Sure.
Just because, obviously, where you're at there. But decent to poor. Then you flip to the other side. Defensive end, great. You're great.
Elite.
Defensive tackle, decent.
Good. I think
decent to good. Linebacker, decent. But thin. Corner, it's crazy because your top end is sensational, but then I would probably
go
decent.
But thin. Yes, good, but I mean,
yeah,
good with no stop at decent, like good to poor.
Good to poor, right? Yeah, and then safety would be poor. And that's not it. That's just the circumstance. You have 3 starters.
Yeah.
So I guess the point of doing that little exercise was, as it seems absurd, and frankly, it is. And no one in the world thought a year ago that here we would be a year later playing without 22 players after what we went through in December of 2020. Yet here we are, and because of all of the influx of talent in the roster and the quick moves that happened this week to get people in here who are familiar, you got yourself a fighting chance here Saturday.
Well, yeah, and turn it around. Let's go on the Raiders really quickly. Raiders quarterback, good. Good, I would say. I think Derek Carr's a good player. Running back room, I would say decent to good.
Yeah.
Probably good. Tight end room, poor without Darren Waller. Offensive line, I think, is poor, just straight up. And I think their wide receiver room is probably decent. Hunter Renfro's good. They've got some decent pieces, but it's not, it's not in the top half of the league.
Not what it was at the beginning of the year, no.
Wide receiver rooms. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Their defensive ends, I think, are good. I think that their defensive tackles are decent. Linebackers, decent to poor. Corners, decent. Safeties, decent. I mean, that's why they're in the position that they're in. Now, their special teams and their kicker in particular is good to great. I think Daniel Carlson's a great kicker. 9 of 10 the last 2 years from 50-plus. He's made his last 11 field goals. He's been good. But this is a team, again, that's only scored 16 points or fewer in 5 of its last 6 games. Yeah. And so they have not been a very good offense. In fact, you'd say that's a poor offense at this point. By the way, it's a similar problem to what we had, not being able to get the ball into the end zone. We need to have our defense step up in this, and when the offense has it, take advantage of the opportunities that are there, extend drives, and know that it's okay to have, 3 plays of 3.3 yards to get a first down and just keep it moving. And then you're going to have some play action shots because at some point, and Nick Mullins could throw the ball. He actually had, I watched the tape, he had a nice day at practice. He can throw the football around the yard. I mean, this is a guy who's averaged almost 300 yards a game in his career in the NFL. He can throw it. And when he does, he's just got to be judicious. He's got to be judicious with the ball, pick the right matchups to take advantage of. And I imagine the play action game, you're going to have some layups. Now, one thing I'd also like to throw out is we've talked so much about Chubb and Dearness, not only handing it off to him, throwing it to him. That's where the Raiders have really struggled. They've had games where they've given up over 100 yards receiving to running backs. They give up about 50 yards a game to running backs, about half a touchdown receiving per game to running backs. So just getting the ball in the hands of your best guys, and I think your best guys on offense right now, it's easy. It's Nick Chubb, number 1. It's the Chief and Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably 2 and 3. And then it's, Dearness Johnson and Hollywood Higgins. Get the ball into those guys' hands as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely so. Browns fans can win big with the digital scratch-off game brought to you by the Ohio Lottery on ClevelandBrowns.com and the Browns social channels. Fans can play once per day throughout the season by digitally scratching off a virtual card for chances to win great prizes like Team Shop gift cards and tickets to future games. For more information, log on to promotions.clevelandbrowns.com. Buddy, we will check in with you coming up here momentarily. Coming up in about 10 minutes from now, Steve Wyche will join us, the NFL Network. He's going to be on the sidelines for this game. We'll ask him what he's been told about the realities of what could be waiting here on Saturday. We are off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You're down.
EOX Vantage has the local presence and a global footprint. It's trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Here's a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Scheel. He is a vice president at Skyward Specialty Insurance. He says the tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door for us to all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They help our team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely, make it easy to communicate with customers, and cut way down on manual data entry and the associated input errors, cut hours off processes and response times as well. Operationally, it's a brand new ball game for us, and it can be for you too. I encourage you to learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616 for more. Well, that was sure a fun Thursday nighter. Probably made you pull your head out, your hair out, but it had everything. And it has the Chiefs obviously as back at 34-28. Gibby, I couldn't help but in watching those two teams and thinking of, that division. When I was a kid, also included the Seahawks, of course, and that was a high flying division. That was an Elway Fouts high flying division. And they are going to have a steady diet of games like the one they had last night. Those two quarterbacks are going to have a lot of battles like the one they had. Fourth down stuff, which is obviously the headline coming out of it. The one thing that I'm surprised that nobody talks about on that front, and I'm curious your read on this. Obviously, from an analytics standpoint, in order for something to prove out, you have to stick with it and do it over and over, and that's the idea with the going for it for fourth down that Brandon Staley does so often. But I think of the moment right before half, and it's 14-10, and they get stuffed, and it's still 14-10. Had they kicked the field goal, it's 17-10. I understand it's still both a one-score game, but nobody ever talks about the psychological hit a team takes for coming away empty-handed in a circumstance like that. And that's not something you can measure with numbers. And it's something that I think maybe is getting lost a little bit in all this go for it on fourth and whatever in the red zone and in the scoring areas.
That was the one that I looked at last night, and I said, man, I think that the one right before halftime, you got to get points. You didn't get points earlier. Okay, fine. You got to get points on this one. I was in my car. I had just left here. I'm driving home, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, they are not able to get this yard. They are not able to get this, get the field goal, and go to the locker room. I've been part of that. I've seen how deflating it is. The year we went 0-16, we were in Detroit. We had first and goal inside the 5 3 times, couldn't get it in. It was right before halftime. We had a chance to extend the lead on a team that we should have beaten. We go for it. We don't get it. The Lions had all the momentum to start the second half. We had nothing. Good night, Irene.
There is momentum. It's hard. You can't quantify it.
Yep.
Because it's an emotional state, right? And it's something that isn't considered. And I've seen it with us this year. I know you have too. We've talked about it. Those first drives where you go down and it's 7 plays, 66 yards, 9 plays, 72 yards, and you go for it and you don't get it, and you're like, had you kicked a field goal, you walk away. At least we got something, right? I understand the math of it, and I understand you got to stick with it. But I think there has to be a little bit of nuance on the fourth down strategies going forward, because I do think it can cut your legs out from under you when you have these long extended drives or these drives in big moments right before half coming off of a turnover where if you don't get something out of it, it does damage to the psyche of a team.
Yeah, I mean, that's that was the only thing last night. I mean, you want to talk about two teams leaving it on the field and taking care of business, and LA knew they had to win the game. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. We've got to get this done. We've got to pull out all the stops. There was a sense of desperation, and they're still in a great spot. They're 8-6. It's not like the world ended this morning, but the path to the division is almost impossible now. And Kansas City, I don't know anybody that wants to play the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
Well, and what we always thought, the one caveat to playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs this year was, well, look, they're not going to have home field. Yeah, they are. They are going to end up having home field advantage. That's the way that this thing's going to break by the time we finally get to the playoffs, is that they will more than likely be the 1 seed in the AFC. Brown, go ahead. You got a note real quick?
Yeah, I think we're pushing back on Mr. Wyche a few minutes. He's got some developments going on. So we'll figure this out as we go.
Okay, very good. Here's the deal from a big picture standpoint in the AFC. This is a Chiefs team that was left for dead. It's a Chiefs team that when Chris Jones came back, and we've talked about Melvin Ingram and getting him for a bag of balls early in the season and the difference he made, although Jones didn't play in the game yesterday. But this was a team that, and it's interesting because Vegas is, if you pay attention to the scores, they were a 3-point favorite on the road yesterday.
Yeah.
That's how much against a good team. That's how much Vegas believes in the Kansas City Chiefs and that football team going forward. And it's something that's absolutely going to be it's going to bear out by the time you get to the AFC playoffs. Really, I think the only team that can slow them in terms of being the 1 seed is New England. That's it. It's between those two teams in the AFC.
Hey, I mean, Tennessee finds ways to win, but I feel like the luck's going to run out here sooner rather than later.
Agree.
So, and the AFC North, I think, is just the more I continue to look, and like we're hearing today, it sounds like there's a good chance he won't play Sunday now against, I believe, the Packers. I think they have the Packers.
They play the
Sunday.
Packers.
Yeah,
they do.
So it sounds like they're not going to have him. Like the path might be, if you can get to 10 wins in the AFC North, you're going to win the division. You're definitely not going to get that bye and that home field.
No.
There's no way around it. The question is, how many wins will it take to secure that number 1 seed? Can New England continue at the pace they're on? I'm interested to see what that Patriots team looks like coming off of the bye week here.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more when you look at where we are, and you think about just the AFC part of it, with the Chiefs getting to 10-4 and that win over the Chargers, which I think is good for us, right? I mean, obviously both those teams have a tiebreaker, but anytime that the Chargers had the lesser record going in, and so that keeps them. We had a chance to equal them from a record standpoint. You'd obviously have to be a game better than them to have a tiebreaker over them, considering the tiebreaker is already there. You mentioned the Patriots; they get the Colts in Indy tomorrow night. So we play the early game against the Raiders, then they get the Colts in Indy tomorrow night. The Bills in the thick of this thing. They host the Panthers this week. You think about the other teams involved. The Titans at 9-4 host the Steelers, or at Pittsburgh at 6-1. So a big one there in terms of AFC playoff jockeying a little bit. You mentioned the Rams and the Packers. That's a 4:25 game on Sunday. That game being played in Baltimore. So that lays kind of the groundwork for what to expect this weekend. Of course, Cincinnati and Denver, 2 7-6 teams. By the time you get to Monday, you have a pretty good idea where you're at.
Yes, especially, you're going to start seeing these 6-7, 7-6 teams kind of start to weed themselves out, I think. I really believe that's where we're headed here. The 500 teams, you're going to start to see them get maybe 2 games, maybe 3 games under 500. You're going to start seeing those 500 teams get a couple games over. That's why tomorrow is so important, and I think that's why so many people are passionate about the situation this week. Because if you're 8-6 going to Green Bay, you still have some wiggle room going up against arguably the number 1 team in the NFL next week.
Yeah.
And you've positioned yourself within the AFC, where who knows what the pukers will be in a couple weeks. And it sets you up for a monumental Week 18 game against Cincinnati. And I'm telling you, if you can win this game tomorrow and you beat Pittsburgh, that Cincinnati game will not stay at 1 o'clock. We will move.
No.
Now,
yeah.
I've seen
Is that
people.
A Saturday move, or would that be a move to Sunday night?
That would have to be either a Sunday afternoon late or a Sunday night. Now, you can't. I don't think all week long. Some people, I've been seeing it. People talking about moving to Saturday. You play on Monday night on the road. You're not getting home till Tuesday morning. Like that's almost a Thursday night, like type week, because you're off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You got to play, or Fridays. Friday's a day, and then Saturday's a game. So it's that's asking a lot for a Week 18. A potential must-win and you're in, or playing for a home playoff game. That's just not that's not fair, and you can't expect that. And I think the league understands everything that's gone on here this week. I don't think they would put us in that position.
No, I don't think so either. And under normal circumstances, let's remember, obviously, we're favored. In fact, I think you could, if you took all of the remaining AFC North games, I believe this is our game against the Raiders is the only game the rest of the way for the AFC North teams where you are playing a team with a losing record.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure this one Saturday is the only one. Normally, we were favored in the game. Obviously, with everything that's happened, we're now 3.5-point underdogs in the game. But every other team in the AFC North this week, Pittsburgh has now become a pick-em, which is a little surprising to me. But the Bengals and the Ravens are both underdogs. The Ravens are 6.5-point underdogs at home against Green Bay. And that might not be enough.
That's crazy. And something to monitor. I know that we're changing these protocols, I think. I don't know. They changed 3 times yesterday, I feel like. In the time we were on the air, they changed 3 times. The whole 10-day process, potentially, like if you tested positive yesterday, now, again, these new protocols, maybe you can test out of this, but if you got to wait 10 days, you're not playing next Saturday either.
No.
If you tested positive yesterday. Wednesday?
No.
Wednesday sets up an interesting situation because you might have to put a bunch of people on a plane Saturday morning on Christmas Day and get them to Green Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine like our logistic people trying to make sense of all of this because it's a constantly evolving situation is where you're at this point. Browns fans get into First Internet Stadium quicker on game day with Express Access. Enroll for free today to enter through the exclusive lanes at each entrance. Plus, use Express Access for a chance to win a signed Myles Garrett jersey and other prizes at the end of the season. Click onto the Tickets tab in the Browns mobile app to learn more. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Welcome back to Cleveland Browns Daily, and very happy now to be joined by the Director of Communications and Branding for First Energy, Doug Calafella. And Doug, first of all, thank you so much for your partnership, and it's great to see kind of, two big organizations come together, have that long-standing commitment to each other, but also to the community and partnering for that greater good, which we'll talk about more specifics in a second.
Well, thanks, Nathan. It's great to be here today.
I know recently you guys have done a field lights donation that took place at Bump Taylor Field. What do you want to tell us about that?
Well, it was a tremendous day yesterday. If you could have been there to see the look on these players' faces and the coaches and the community, was a really tremendous partnership between First Energy and the Browns to come together and to donate new field lights for Bump Taylor Field. This is a great, these are two great football programs, two great schools, John Hay and Glenville, who've been playing, during the daytime for many, many years. And they go on the road and they get to play under lights. And I know they always wanted to play under the lights in their own stadium. And First Energy's donation is going to make Friday Night Lights a reality for these kids and for the community. And to see the look on these kids' faces yesterday was just unbelievable. I mean, they were psyched. They got the new light package that's coming. The Browns chipped in new uniforms, new Nike uniforms for the players that they opened up. So it was a big reveal. It was also great working with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District because they planned the event and they kept it under wraps too. So it was a real big surprise for the community and for the kids.
That had to be so gratifying. And I know, for kids that age, there's the old saying, look good, play good. And now they get to look good in the new uniforms and then to do so under the lights. And I know these lights are going to be ready for the 2022 school year. And the first game under the lights, that's going to be a big deal. And I know you're hoping to revisit it at that time and see it in action.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone's really, really excited about it. And, and it's just part and parcel with, kind of a long history of community giving with First
Right.
Energy. It's something that has been really important to us for a long, long time. The company does a tremendous job, donating to the community, getting involved in nonprofits. I mean, you see our name all over town. I think we have a really good tradition from that standpoint. But our employees too. Our employees are very committed to being involved in the community. Even if you come and work at First Energy, we offer 16 hours of volunteer time off. So in addition to your vacation time, you're getting time off to do work in the community. And, in 2019, for example, just before the pandemic started, we had 20,000 hours used of volunteer time off. Still, even during the pandemic in 2020, 16,000 hours of employee time dedicated. They used that BTO time. So this project at Bump Taylor Field, our partnership with the Browns, again, is, I think nothing new for us. It's something that we're really excited about and continue to put a lot of effort behind.
And that's so cool when you have organizations that have such a big footprint, certainly in the community, but that are so committed. And it always comes, top down. It's ingrained in you. And here with the Browns, we have the Give 10 movement, and everybody in the organization gives at least 10 hours of community service. And so when you have that kind of leadership and that vision of companies like this, it makes such a natural partnership, but they can also have such an impact, as you're talking about, with the Bump Taylor Field lights donation and the uniforms to Glenville and John Hay. To see something like that come together is pretty neat.
Yeah, no doubt. And we couldn't have had a better day. It was a beautiful day yesterday. We had great weather. We had Josh Cribbs there, who is such a pro. I mean, just a tremendous MC for the event. And Coach Ginn, all in all, it was just a real formula for success. And I had to go home and look up, Google what a tar blooder was. I didn't know what what Glenville tar blooders were, and it's just such a cool name. I got a kick out of that. But these kids were just really, really excited, and they were such gentlemen, and we're really, really proud of the kids.
Well, we're certainly very happy for them, and we're going to go ahead and continue kind of this celebration of what you guys have done this Saturday when the Browns take on the Raiders. First Energy will not only be the game sponsor of the game at First Energy Stadium, but through a moment of impact, we're going to have a video about the Field Lights donation event and recognize members from both Glenville and John Hay on the field with your CEO, Steve Strauss. So this is something that's going to be we're going to continue
back in 30.
Get ready for this 2022 season.
Yeah, you bet. I can't wait to be there and see it play out. So really excited. It put a nice, ribbon around, I think, what has been a really good week.
Absolutely. We can't wait to see us this Saturday for the game, and obviously be back in 2022 to see these lights turned on for the first time at the Bump Taylor Field. Doug, a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for the partnership and for all that you do at First Energy for this community and with the Cleveland Browns.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Nathan.
All right. We'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this.
When you're on the injured list, get a little help back in the game. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. A couple of breaking news elements. This from Kimberly Martin, who's dialed in where we are concerned, and reporting that Jadeveon Clowney has also tested positive for COVID, and so you can add him, reportedly to the list, but Kimberly's pretty dialed into what's happening here in the building. So I think you could probably put quite a bit on that side of that report. And this one also interesting, and this is kind of what you wondered if you'd cross the Rubicon on this one, and it's from Dan Graziano, our great friend, who on his Twitter says that the NFL is having conversation, Gibbe, about potentially moving our game to Monday or Tuesday, and you could see something within the next hour on that front.
Yeah, this from Mr. Graziano, our good friend. I'm being told there have been NFLPA discussions today about rescheduling Saturday's Raiders-Browns game likely to Monday or Tuesday. A decision could be announced within the next hour before the Raiders are scheduled to travel to Cleveland. Now, we thought the Raiders were already in the air.
I thought they were in the air.
They are clearly not, according to that report.
No. Clearly not, according to that report. Folks, this is just an ever-evolving situation. And we are right now a little more than 24 hours away.
I have Steve on hold.
Of this game. We mentioned the Dan Graziano report. We mentioned the Kimberly Martin report about Jadeveon Clowney, and now the Dan Graziano report that the NFL is in consideration of moving this game to Monday or Tuesday. A guy who's going to want to know about this is our great friend Steve Wyche, who joins us on the hotline, the fantastic NFL Network reporter. He'll be on the sidelines for the broadcast. Right now, the broadcast set for Saturday. Steve, what can you tell us? What are you hearing?
So all I've been told by people with teams and the league is just to kind of sit tight and let's see. Like right now, the plan is for the game to be scheduled. In fact, I just spoke to someone with the Raiders about 15 minutes ago. Their buses are lined up out front to take them to the airport. And so they're planning on coming out here and playing a game. Of course, all of that can change. But here's the other thing to keep in mind. The game is scheduled for Saturday this week. The Browns play Saturday next week. So if they push this game to Monday or Tuesday, are they going to push the Christmas Day game back a day or two? Right. So now, there is another potential roadblock into them moving this game. But at the same time, the Raiders are coming out here with almost a fully healthy staff. They have not had one player go on the COVID list this week. In fact, running back Jalen Richard was activated off the COVID list, whereas it seems like daily the Browns roster is being depleted, and they're going to have to suit up guys who probably have taken very few snaps at all this season.
Steve, you mentioned you just got off the phone with the Raiders people within the Raiders organization. Is there any trepidation on their end to play this game for the reason of could this happen to them next week?
Nope. They want to come out here and play it. They're ready.
Okay.
You got to remember, this is a team that, as bad as this COVID thing is with the Browns, has been through an awful lot this year. They've lost 5 of 6 games, and they're probably seeing this as a ripe opportunity to continue to keep in the playoff race.
Okay. The thing that I was curious about, and I'm curious what you've heard on this, with the Jadeveon Clowney report from Kimberly Martin, that would now make 23 of our guys that would be on the list, and who knows? I mean, that could grow over the course of the afternoon. We had guys yesterday afternoon, Case Keenum among them, yesterday afternoon late, who were added to the list. Is there a number where this becomes untenable, Steve?
I would think there would have to be. I mean, look, they keep on saying if you got 53 and you can field 22, you can play. But, a whole position group, I mean, look at guys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought.
No, we lost you too for a second, but go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, sorry about that. No, but I mean, look, I think there is a number, and especially if a position group gets absolutely ransacked, then maybe so. I mean, look at the Browns secondary right now. Who are they going to play? So I would think there has to be a number, but then I think if they postpone this game, they're going to have to postpone the Christmas Day game as well, unless the Browns say we can play on an extremely short week, like a Thursday night type game.
Steve, we saw the comments from Jerry Jones on radio down in Dallas about, hey, look, maybe as soon as next week we could see some changes of asymptomatic vaccinated individuals, playing. Where are we on that?
Yeah, it looks like they are installing protocols as to where if you are asymptomatic and vaccinated, that you could test out sooner. Like right now, asymptomatic vaccinated players have to pass 2 tests 24 hours apart from the first negative test. And the thing with that is typically what they've seen this year is right after a positive test, you're not going to have a negative test unless there's an occasional false positive reading. So there tend to see like a couple positives before the negative. But, and this is the issue with all these teams in enhanced protocols, like you're seeing the Browns, the Rams have 25 guys on. They're testing every day. And a lot of these are asymptomatic vaccinated players. So it sounds like what they're talking about is to let them have a negative test, I think with just one negative test after 24 hours. I'm not positive on that, but it does sound like they're trying to shorten the period for asymptomatic vaccinated players to return sooner, so we don't have, a potential outbreak situation across the league like we're seeing in some of these markets.
Yeah, Steve, it's a fascinating thing. And then the NFLPA side of it, and of course J.C. Treader, the president of the NFLPA, right here, he snaps the ball to Baker Mayfield. The role that they play in all of this. These guidelines were put in back in the summer when you're worried about a Delta variant that maybe wasn't quite as transmissible but more serious, it seems, at this point. I'm not a doctor, but based on some of the data that we're seeing at this point, what is the NFLPA's stance on this going forward here as we try to close out this season with some integrity a little bit?
Well, remember, these are not unilateral decisions by the NFL. These are jointly made decisions with the NFLPA. So their stance is the same as everything we're seeing. When you heard me just talk about the potential for abbreviated vaccinated players to, their time to test back in, that's jointly decided. So everything that's going on with these protocols, the one that have been agreed upon, those are all NFL and NFLPA. But the one thing I have heard is that the PA, especially as it pertains to tomorrow's game with the Browns and Raiders, they are really pushing to delay this game, just as they're saying it's a player safety issue more than anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about who's going to suit up in orange and brown if this thing is played tomorrow, and you're going to need certainly going to need a who's this guy list with some of these guys they're going to be in this two deep. Steve, I was curious from the standpoint if a game is postponed, and I'm not going to put in a position of being a doctor, but frankly, we're just kind of going through this on the air, and it's an ever-evolving situation. If a game is moved, I guess what I don't understand is what does that buy the Browns? Because what we've seen is that typically on these things, a positive test leaves you out not only – it's usually a 10-day window is what we've seen throughout this season. We saw that with Nick Chubb and several of our other guys who have tested positive as the season goes along. I guess what from the counter to pushing this to Monday or Tuesday would be, what are you going to gain from that?
That, and I'm sure that is the big conundrum that's going on. Like, if we push this 2 days, what if everybody still keeps testing positive? What has been gained here? But remember, there were some times last year, I believe there's a Ravens game that was pushed to a Tuesday or Wednesday because they were depleted. They had that big outbreak. Remember, the strength coach came in and they had a big outbreak. So I guess, maybe they say, okay, if we push it 2 days, maybe some of these guys, because apparently a lot of these players are asymptomatic, can test back in and be available to play. So I'm guessing that's what time will allow. Like some of these players who maybe tested last week, or something early in the week, they're tested back in, they're healthy, they can get their conditioning in, a day of conditioning to get their wind up, things like that. I guess time is the window for players to get back to full strength so they can at least have a competitive roster.
Steve, won't hold you to this, but and I'll get you out of here on this one. You calling a game tomorrow here in Cleveland, you think?
I have no idea. I mean, this is one I don't even want to hedge right now, because as of right now, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
But I have no idea, because this has been so fluid. Just look at yesterday with the Browns. We didn't see Case Keenum all of a sudden going on this list. So it's just too hard to tell.
It's wild, man. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time on what's a crazy day. Appreciate you, buddy.
You got it, guys. Take care.
All right, he's one of our great friends, Steve Wyche, covers the NFL as good as anybody, allegedly on the sidelines tomorrow. He has been told, you heard that, Gibby, what he said there. He said, hey, hold still. Let's wait. The Raiders folks have buses ready to take Team 2 plane. The Raiders, by the way, want to play. You heard that from him. He just got off the phone with them 20 minutes ago.
Jay Glazer.
Oh, boy.
This is 4 minutes ago. Monday and Tuesday would be in play.
Okay, so from the let's unpack that. Let's take a quick time out and unpack what that would mean.
Actually, I can a little bit more. The entire NFL schedule is still being discussed. Raiders waiting to get word if they can board to leave or not.
Okay. All right. So let's unpack what that will mean. We will get into that coming up next. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau here for Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River. The holidays fast approaching. Make your New Year's Eve plans with Char, offering New Year's Eve reservation specials, dinner for two, including a Wagyu strip steak at limited availability. Make sure you get one of those. Catch the game of the week as you sip on one of our 300 premium whiskey. Guys, the whiskey list is sensational at Char. They know what they're doing. A gift card from Char makes for the perfect holiday gift as well. And now through the holidays, any gift card over $50 is going to receive an extra 10% added directly on the card. Support local. Visit Char Whiskey Bar and Grill in Rocky River or at charrockyriver.com. Folks, I know whiskey. They know whiskey. Trust me on that front. You may need a whiskey to make sense of everything that's going on in the National Football League. Z is back with us. Buddy, we just had Steve Wyche on. Not sure if you heard that or not, but just some of the fluidity that's happening in the situation. And then a report from Jay Glazer that Monday and Tuesday are in play for us to move this game. The Las Vegas Raiders have buses lined up ready to take their players because they want to play this game. This is as surreal, if that's the right word, as any situation I can remember.
Yeah, it certainly is. And by the way, Jeremy Fowler reporting that the Raiders are unhappy with the fact that the game could be moved, believing that the protocols over the summer were clear that teams with outbreaks had to forfeit. But we all know that was only true in case of a breakout amongst unvaccinated players. That is not the case with the Cleveland Browns. Everybody is vaccinated who was on our COVID-19 list. And so the NFL is realizing, I think, and Jadeveon Clowney added to the list since we talked, an hour ago, that this is – you're trying to mitigate the competitive disadvantage. Well, there's a massive one here. I still believe absolutely if this game is played tomorrow, the Browns can go out and win it. But you've got to take things into account. Now, if you move it to Monday or Tuesday, does that significantly alter the landscape for the Cleveland Browns? And if so, it becomes a good idea. Now, then you have a short week getting ready for Christmas because I imagine they probably don't want this to be a multiple-week thing. There are a lot of things to kind of consider there. That Christmas game is as marquee as it gets to the NFL from a television standpoint. But I think if you're the Browns, you would much rather play the Packers on a short week, then get a long week to get ready for Monday Night Football, really kind of almost a mini, Thursday night bye type situation, getting ready for Monday Night Football against the Steelers. That Packers game is tough. I think if you were trying to say which game would we have the worst circumstances for, that's the NFC game. It's probably the least important overall to what we're trying to accomplish this season. So it would be that one, right? So if playing on Monday or even Tuesday helps the Browns get a significant number of guys back, I certainly hope that the NFL considers it. And for the Browns, I think that would be tremendous news.
Yeah, the thing that, and I asked Steve this, and I don't know this, and I don't expect you to know the answer to this either, my friend, because this is all, as I mentioned, and very clearly fluid. I don't. What do the days buy you? I suppose it. I guess what you're banking on is if you buy the days, if you get to Monday or Tuesday playing, and if there are new protocols that can be in place, that potentially the combination of the two could get you some guys back.
Right, and so they're able to monitor on the overnight testing what that number is. And I think it's called a cycle. I don't know what the T stands for. The C stands for cycle, but that CT number, once you're at 40 by anybody's measure, you're in the clear. The lower that number, the worse you are in your COVID cycle. Once it gets to 35, the belief is that you can no longer transmit. And so that is one of the things that's been added to the COVID protocols. And so the Browns are very aware, and is the league, on where players who are asymptomatic and are testing on those overnight tests, where they are in their cycle. If they're on the way down, which would be to the lower number, which would be, I guess, on the upswing of how bad their COVID infection is, or if they're on the way back down, it could ascertain by Tuesday or Monday who would be below or above that 35 threshold and therefore be able to get back onto the field. So that's what I think that they're looking at in terms of understanding what a few days might buy. If you have guys who are cycling down or are at their peaks right now, there's a very good chance that they will get back to a 35. I know, speaking from my personal experience, this is just my experience with it, that I went, you start up and then you go down. I never went too low, fortunately, and then came back up pretty quickly and got above that 35 number. So while I was still testing positive at the time on the nose swabs and all of that, I was getting out of the cycle that they call it for COVID. So that's my guess. That's what you're hoping it buys, that you have an idea of where players are in the cycle, and you have an idea of what those numbers look like, and therefore you'd be able to understand that in a few days you could project out. You would have guys who would clear the threshold and then hopefully be testing negative and be able to come back.
From Adam Schefter, Raiders supposed to board the buses to go to the airport at 2:15 Eastern Time. Some players have said they are being told at this time to stand down, per sources.
Yeah, it's consistent with Schefter also, many reporting from the NFL standpoint that a postponement, I mean, we just had Steve Wyche on, he said that he was told to as well, and now the Schefter report in Vegas of what players are being told. Again, we're 4 minutes from them supposed to be on buses and head out here for this game. So this is how you could see something here in the next couple of minutes on this front. I thought this was interesting from Tom Pelissaro, who's doing a lot of reporting on this, and he says, quote, "A notable dynamic, sources say the NFLPA has received feedback. The majority of players want to eliminate COVID protocols altogether. No more testing, quarantining, etc. The sentiment isn't shared by union leadership, which has continued to advocate for daily testing." So that just adds another layer to this thing, Z. There are so many.
It does, and when you talk to players, at least the guys that I've talked to, and I know you've talked to some current and former players as well, that's large, like 100% the feedback that I've gotten. We're done with it. We accept a lot of risks playing this game. We're willing to accept those risks. So far, none of the athletes in the National Football League have gotten severely ill from COVID, and that they want to go on with their business and go on with their lives, as many vaccinated people are doing in other walks of life around the country. And so that is their belief. That's their opinion. Now, the leadership, as it was noted there, J.C. Tretter, the president of the NFL, they don't share that same sentiment. But the question becomes, as a union leader, at what point does the will of the union you represent become your policy? And so that is another dynamic that is at play here. And the NFL, I think things could change very rapidly in the next week, and we'll see what shape that takes. I think it could go all the way to more testing. I think it could go to the elimination of it completely.
It does feel like it needs to be one or the other, though, because you can't be in this gray area.
You can't be in a gray area. I completely agree. And I think that, this is me talking. These are not scores. This is Nathan Zegura's opinion, is that I think the NFL, if they decide to go to, hey, look, we're not going to do any testing, we're not going to do any of that, it's probably going to come with you guys, not necessarily bubble, but in-home bubble. Protect your loved ones. Do not go out to clubs and bars. Do not go out and get involved in society until the conclusion of this football season, not only for your safety, but for the safety of everybody else that you may or may not come in contact with. And if you're willing to do that, then perhaps they would be willing to eliminate the testing and allow players to play. There's still been no confirmed case of on-field transmission yet. Now, that could come from a variety of reasons, right? It's not going to be the most scientific study that gets you to that statement. But if that's the belief and that is the will of the NFLPA, it certainly would jive, I'm guessing, with the will of the league. Could they come to a resolution that looks like that? You have to, and you face penalties should you not kind of, live in your own bubble, and then you will know that we're not going to have any games missed, anything like that going forward.
Yeah. Wild times. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, for copy provider, your Cleveland Browns. Have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Z will be back in about 15 minutes. Kay Adams of Good Morning Football coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You guys are down.
All right, let's go ahead. Did you play the network break? Nick? Nick, are you there? Hey, Nick? Nick?
Score Cleveland Browns season tickets from Sugardale from your local Meijer, plus a chance to kick a field goal to score 10 seasons worth of season tickets during a Browns game. Text Browns to 55678 to enter. Rules and regulations do apply on that. And with that, we head out on the hotline for a person who I kind of thinks the queen of the NFL. She's the great Kay Adams, host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network, and really one of the faces of the league and one of the most talented people you'll find out there. You're in town, Kay. We don't know if you're going to have a game tomorrow, but you're in town.
Oh, well, there better be a game tomorrow. I just landed. I haven't even checked into my hotel. I'm so excited to be back in Ohio back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, you were. You were down in Cincinnati. That's enemy territory. As you and I are talking right now, there's a million things going on in the league. I'm sure you're aware of it as well in terms of potential of moving games and so forth and so on. I want to have a little bit of fun in terms of the growth of the show and all of that, but just what can you tell us about what you know about tomorrow?
You know, I just landed, and I'm checking into my hotel. I know that Joe Thomas, Willie McGinnis, they'll be with me on set at 2 p.m. Eastern. We are planning to be there, and hopefully this game can get played. So many playoff implications. You know, Browns win, Ravens lose to the Packers Sunday night. Browns are first place in the AFC North. So I'm just getting excited and getting ready for the game to be played. No insights, and I haven't been told otherwise.
You have done a really cool thing this fall with taking the show on the road. And there are a few things cooler than I use the phrase a big game on campus because typically it's a college football, but you've gotten a taste of the NFL this fall going on campus, seeing you at various places. What has this been like for you to get out there and to see these venues and these different cities and the way that they love this sport and also the way your show is loved, which is pretty remarkable in markets such as ours?
I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I mean, I picked the Browns to go to the Super Bowl and lose to the Packers, and there's still a chance that happens. Hopefully we can get past this big hiccup and this adversity that this team is facing. Like, what a confidence builder would it be for this Browns team to get a win on the backs of Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb tomorrow and make waves in the North and just the AFC in general. Honestly, the NFL Network hasn't sent me to any of these places. It's so interesting. On the Sunday show, I'm at home in my little studio. We're, of course, taking all the precautions possible. But I wanted to go to L.A. for the weekend, and I flew myself out there. And I hit up the Chargers, and I said, I'd like to see the stadium. And then they were so gracious and so kind. And the Bengals asked me to be their ruler of the jungle, separately. It was between us. I've gotten to go see this more from a fan perspective than a work perspective. I wasn't paid to do it. I didn't, I didn't have any work obligations, but it has been so much fun to celebrate. To be honest, the last game before this year that I'd been to was the Super Bowl down in Miami. I really missed it. I really missed connecting with fans. And it has been so incredible. SoFi is insane. Let's say the Browns go to the Super Bowl. It is like overstimulation city. It is so big and so loud and incredible. So Super Bowl is going to be a lot of fun in February.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Just big picture, and you're in the midst of it now, in the middle of a season, obviously. But when you look back on taking the job and you think about what your show has become, and really I think kind of feels like the official show of football. It does, and I'm sure that was kind of the objective. But the popularity that it has in NFL buildings, the popularity it has in NFL fans, would you have ever guessed it would get to the point it has this quickly?
I know the person who came up with the show, Mark Quinzel, our fearless leader over at NFL Media, NFL Network, and Michael Davies, Embassy Row. They created a show that was different than what we've seen on TV before, so I knew it was going to be asymmetrical. But I would say it's a really cool responsibility to set the tone in the morning on any news morning show, regardless of subject matter. So I take it really seriously, as much fun as we do have, and I think at the core, you have 3 people, 4 when we had Nate, but in that revolving chair, we make sure that whoever's going to sit there week in, week out, or on any given day is as passionate of a football fan. Because if you boil us all down, we're very different, Peter, Kyle, and I, but we all love football all the same, and football loves us back.
Yeah, it certainly does. And one thing I know, having hosted shows similar on smaller stages than the one that you're doing, is that you can't fake chemistry. You either have it or you don't. I think people think PTI is something that, anybody can do PTI. Well, no, Tony and Mike have known each other forever, and they get along really well, and it comes through in the program. And it comes through in your guys' program, that there's a real chemistry in that group. And obviously when Nate was there, who's a great friend of ours, he actually got the first Odell Beckham jersey and wore it, of course, on Good Morning Football.
I know.
Yeah, he got the very first one when we traded for Beckham that time. So, but you can see that chemistry, and you can't fake it, right?
I cannot wait to see Nate again. I miss him so tremendously. I'm wishing him, of course, all the best in CBS mornings. We have him on the show on Good Morning Football, so it's good to still have that connection. And I think I heard a rumor that I will be reuniting with him in some capacity Super Bowl week out in LA. So look forward to that because I can't say enough good things, as you guys all know here. I know he had a cup of coffee with the Cleveland Browns, but he's always spoke so highly of the organization. And I know that he's thrilled for how things are turning here, and I'm just really happy to see him and happy for his success. He's the best.
There's no way you really like that chili in Cincinnati, is there? There's no way.
You know what? So I didn't try the Skyline, if I'm being totally real. I couldn't make it out there, but I was at the owner's. Let me get. It was Elizabeth Blackburn, who's the granddaughter. I think I was at the owner's tailgate. I didn't really know I had a couple of beers by then. I had a great time. I mean, since he brought it, so this dog pound better be real deal tomorrow. You guys better bring it. And I tried their chili. So it's kind of the royal chili of Cincinnati since it's the owner's tailgate.
Oh.
And I found it delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not like, I actually liked it. I'll say it. It was kind of cinnamony, but I ate the entire thing.
Okay. Okay, very fair.
What do I need to eat here? What's the Cleveland du jour? I'm very hungry.
Oh, you got to get some pierogies. I mean, you're going to want to get some pierogies at some point.
I mean, I'm 100% Polish, so they better. I mean, I know I can make pierogi.
Boy, and even said it. Yeah, there's so many great things. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's from multiple reports, it looked like this game's not going to be tomorrow. It looks like this game could be Monday, Kay. There's multiple reports around the NFL that this game has been moved. So I don't know if you're going to get more time in our fair city, but God knows we love having you here. And we love your show, and we love all the people involved in it. And take care of Joe Thomas. Whenever you do something with Joe, we call him the Hoff here. And we've done that since he's retired because it's known. He's going into Canton on the first ballot. That is known. So take care of the Hoff for us when you spend some time with him over the next couple of days.
It sounds like I'll be spending a bit of time with him. So I'm going to get caught up on everything, and hopefully we can do what's best with safety, of course, at the forefront.
Okay, thank you so much. Keep up the great work. We love your show, and thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Thank you, guys. Go Browns.
Absolutely. So she's one of the best. So, Gibby, that was a Josina Anderson tweet. Do we have that right, that the game has officially been moved? Is that, or she's reporting that it's been moved?
She's reporting it's being moved to Monday. Again, there's nothing official from the NFL. There's nothing official from the league, from the team, anything like that. Jay Glazer now looks like all three of the games in question are being moved.
So that would be our game against the Raiders. So, and again, we knew this because we knew of the timeline of the buses in Las Vegas that they were ready to fly. So a decision had to be made quickly on that point. Again, nothing official yet, but when you're talking about, I mean, Josina's dialed in, and obviously Jay is as well, and you're gonna, that's as close to authority figures as you're going to get in the league. So that would be our game. It would be the Rams game and the football team's game. Those would be the three teams involved, if we're to understand that.
Yeah, Schefter saying NFL discussing switching Seahawks-Rams to Tuesday.
Oh, boy, pushing that all the way to Tuesday.
Yes.
So pushing us to a Monday night window. And
maybe even a Monday afternoon.
Or a Monday afternoon window. And then the football team, where is their setup this week? I mean, forgive me if I don't. I certainly don't know the
Hold
schedule.
on, I'm bringing
okay,
it up
they
right
play
now.
at 1:00 Sunday against the Eagles in Philly.
Yeah. Luckily, not a whole lot of travel there.
No, I mean, it was the Raiders. Honestly, the Raiders buses that probably forced this, right?
I would think. Raiders players don't want to move to Monday. Eagles, Seahawks don't want to push to Tuesday, but that's where it's headed. Whole lot of side pushes going back and forth. This from Jay Glazer 1 minute ago.
Okay, we're going to reset, and by the time we come back from this quick timeout, we will have a better handle. But right now, it looks like the Browns game scheduled for tomorrow against the Raiders will be postponed from multiple reports. That this game looks like it's going to be moved to Monday, but nothing official yet. Nothing from the league, nothing from us. But again, this is an incredibly fluid situation. Keep it locked right here on ESPN Cleveland. Well, you certainly know my man Alex at Northeast Factory Direct. They deal in volume, don't have the fancy showroom floor. They cut out the expensive overhead. There's never any pressure to buy, and they encourage customers to check around at other places to comparison shop. That's how confident they are. So if you're sick and tired of your outdated kitchen, it's the perfect time to upgrade to a new modern design. And the best part, the process is super simple. The appointment and the design are free. There's no obligation, and they'll let you take it with you. They'll also have 0% financing available. Northeast Factory Direct cuts all the unnecessary costs associated with traditional cabinet stores, so you buy nice stuff at really incredible prices. It's straightforward. It's simple. So if you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, go to northeastfactorydirect.com and schedule your appointment today. Well, we have Jay Glazer now with a couple of reports that are very interesting, and it appears that we are moving to Monday at 5 o'clock. Both Jay Glazer saying that the Raiders players have been told that, right, Gibby? And then also Albert Breer saying our staff has been told Monday as well.
Schefter is saying it as well. Raiders players were told their game has been moved to Monday at 5 o'clock. There's two other games that could be moving as well.
So theoretically then, there's a lot to get to on this front, but theoretically what will happen then, you'll have a Sunday slate of games. You will have then double headers. If I'm following this correctly, you'll have double headers on Monday and Tuesday. So you'll have our game at 5 o'clock, followed by it's Vikings and Bears on Monday Night Football. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then you would get into Tuesday, and you would have a Washington football team Philadelphia game, and then of course you would have a Rams Seahawks game,
and
then a Rams
Seahawks at 8:15. You could have back-to-back. Now that's if everything moves.
Yeah,
but
the people,
it
folks,
appears
just
it's moving.
Yeah, and just to get you an idea of where we're at with this, like this is, we're talking about Schefter, and I mean these people. This is coming from the league. So while there's nothing yet official from the league, when you're talking Jay Glazer, that's ironclad. I don't know that he's missed one. So if he's reporting what's being reported right now, it looks like for the first time this season, the National Football League is going to move games, and our game is going to be the first one moved, as we were the first to be scheduled to play. A game that was supposed to start less than 26 hours from right now, now appears to be headed for Monday at 5 o'clock.
Tom Withers, Associated Press. Browns-Raiders moving to Monday at 5.
There you go.
There it is.
So the next part of this, and we'll get Z in here just momentarily, folks, but the next part of this to really pay attention to is going to be, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of getting guys back? What does it mean in terms of, Z, and he knows this because, of course, he's had this, so he understands what those numbers mean. But what could that mean for us by the time we get to Monday? Unfortunately, I don't know that you're going to get an ironclad answer on that, Gibby. That's something that will start to peel in over the course of the next couple of days. The first thing I was thinking, though, of is, of course, we started this week by going to be without Kevin Stefanski. That might not be the case. It's very possible that he would be back by Monday.
You might have a few players back.
Yeah.
I don't know how that goes or what that looks like or any of those protocols, because what's been a protocol 24 hours ago isn't a protocol now. So,
yeah,
and antibodies and what you have in your system, I don't understand it yet. We're working on trying to get our arms wrapped around it. I mean, you hope that some of these guys can come off of that list. I mean, maybe this also might help, like a Greg Newsome, who's in concussion protocol, maybe needing another day or two. That could help him.
Well, I think about Anthony Walker Jr., too, who was a week ago Thursday when he went on the list, and now all of a sudden you're talking about gaining 2 more days from that standpoint. I think this can't – I mean, this is me hypothesizing, but it would be hard for me to imagine that this move could be done without there being some eye towards the reality that the protocols are changing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to. We'd have to, because otherwise you're going to be in a situation – moving to Monday – is doesn't do anything to change necessarily what's going to happen a week from Saturday at Christmas against the Packers.
Yeah.
So that's still out there too in terms of that. So I think this move, the moving of these games that is being widely reported by the most important people who cover this league, I think would have to be in conjunction with a clear change in protocol going forward. Z joins us now in studio, but what an hour.
What a day, what a week. Yeah, pretty wild here. So the reports, I'm sure you've already discussed, Monday at 5. And for the Browns, I think that's big. We can't say, though, I've gotten so many tweets already of, well, who does that mean? Who's going to be back? I think the only people that you would have a semblance, and again, they should or could be back for sure, would be Anthony Walker Jr. and the Scottish Hammer. Everybody this week, it's still very much up in the air, but I'm guessing, as you mentioned right there, your last point, this is going to come in conjunction with a massive protocol change that would then eliminate this thing, and then you could have everybody back who's asymptomatic.
I think it has to. Because otherwise, I asked Steve Wyche about this. We asked Graziano about it. Like, without that, then I don't know necessarily how much is accomplished. It would allow for players who are – if you don't have a change in protocol, though, like I was thinking, okay, well, you could have a practice on Saturday for Nick Mullins. Like, that'd be beneficial.
Yes.
But would that even be smart? I don't even know if that would be smart if you still have the same protocol standards.
Right. And so I think it's going to have to come with that change. I'm guessing will have to be announced too, and I would imagine that's part of the negotiation between the NFL and the NFLPA as we speak. Because you heard Jerry Jones talk about it earlier. We talked about it earlier today. That would be the only way to – and again, I don't believe that making sure the games get played is the most important thing. We're doing a football show about the Cleveland Browns right now. We're not doing a society show. So from the framework of the National Football League and from the Cleveland Browns, of course you want these games played. You want your key players who are not injured. Of course, there are going to be guys that are injured around the league. Jack Conklin for us, for example. Kareem Hunt for us this week. Greg Newsome for us this week. And, you don't know if that changes anything with the concussion protocol. I wonder if, perhaps a Greg Newsome could be able to go on Monday when he would not have been able to go on a Saturday. That we don't know. But
for sure,
there are going to be injuries around the league. But if you want to be able to play this season out and you have a union membership that is willing to play this season out amidst what is a pandemic, but it seems at least amongst these athletes that are vaccinated in 2021 to not be having a significant health impact on them. Now, we know last year when there weren't vaccinations, we know what it did to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
This is a different situation now. And so I think that the league is going to take that into account, and the NFLPA, I'm curious if they will listen to the majority of their membership or if they will stay, firm in what they believe is the best way to do it going forward. Now, they may say, look, we're going to test all the time, but as long as you remain asymptomatic, you can play. That could happen as well. I don't know where it's going to be at, but I think if the league wants – and if the players are willing and everybody thinks that and the doctors sign off on it, that, yeah, we still firmly believe that it is not transmissible at the games or, whatever the health risk would be of playing, that I think you're going to see a lot of, guys play that are vaccinated and asymptomatic, much like you would have seen people play, in the past with the cold. Were you well enough to play? That was the question. It wasn't, that thought wasn't beyond that. And then as we talked about, earlier, does that come with some type of, kind of good faith agreement that the players will, keep themselves away from others who in society or in their own families who could be potentially vulnerable that are not in their 20s or 30s at the peak of athletic conditioning?
Absolutely. That lays it out. Albert Breer with an interesting couple of tweets here. He talks about the gamble for the NFL for two reasons. No guarantee more positive tests don't come. He continues to say 80% of COVID-positive players this year have failed to test out and set the max of 10 days. That's something we talked about a lot.
Yep.
Like it's a 10-day window. It's all there for you. You lived it. And the NFL has relaxed standards for testing out. Still no assurance guys will clear. But he does say that said better chance now than before. And this goes back to what my last point in the originating salvo and yours that you're making right there, and that is that the NFL and the NFLPA could come to an agreement to change protocols by Monday. So that's the other part of this. Is there a new protocol that's being worked through now that would allow for potentially – because from what I've read and from people reporting around our team, both here locally and nationally, the people who are plugged into our team – most of us, it's asymptomatic.
Yes, significantly high percentage is asymptomatic. By the way, Jay Glazer, who does not deal in speculation, says, by the way, protocols could change Monday too. A minute ago, he says that, which means the protocols will be changing. And Raiders players are not happy about it. KJ Wright taking Twitter, I pay my player dues just to get lied to in the rules bent at NFL, NFLPA. If it was the other way around, I swear would we be playing tomorrow, which makes him think that he feels that the Raiders are often on the wrong side. And I guess they have some grief over what happened with their John Gruden this year. But, yeah, I think that it's got to come with quite a bit of change.
Yeah, I think that's also a window into how everybody thinks the NFL is against it.
Yes,
I mean,
correct.
I'm sure our fans thought the NFL was against us throughout much of the day today. This just got to be untenable. With the Jadeveon, that was now upwards of 23 players on our team, playing a game tomorrow, and there was no assurances that number wasn't going to grow. Remember, when we got off the show yesterday, Case Keenum was still playing. Grant Delpit was still playing.
Yeah.
That all changed after we got off. So there's no reason to believe that Jadeveon's the end of it. So that's the other factor in this thing is where does this end and to what end? And I think the only reason that this got done right now, I'm going to be very candid, is because the Raiders had to fly because they're flying from Vegas, and they were going to fly at 2:15. And if not, this would have been continued to kick down the road as long as could be. But because they were flying, you had to make a decision now on this thing. And I will give credit to our guy, Dan Graziano. He was the first I saw. Gibby, did you see anybody else? I think he was the first I saw who said there is conversation about moving this game.
Yep. Shout out to the Dan.
Yeah. So, Z, getting a lot of questions in terms of what it would mean for the Packers game on Saturday. My hunch is nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, that's what I would say. Absolutely nothing. I think we'll play on Saturday, and if you're the Browns, look, you played on a short week before. This is now, a Monday to a Saturday, which is better than a Sunday to a Thursday by a day. And you're going to deal with that. That's an odd game anyway, and you'll be happy to have, at that point, I think a pretty full, unit of people who, regardless of even if there is a protocol change, would then at that point be good to go for you. The interest to me, and I said this earlier, this game is more important to the Browns' playoff chances and their ability in the AFC to play in the postseason than the game against Green Bay. Quite frankly, the Browns are going to be underdogs in that game, as they should be. They are favored. They would have been favored with a full complement by 6 points in this one. This is when you've got to have the Steelers and the Bengals. You have 3 games that if you win those 3, you are going to be in good shape. The Packers game was always tough. So if that's on a short week, fine. And guess what? I'd rather keep it on a Sunday, give us an extra 2 days, right, to get ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football.
Absolutely.
I'd much rather take that. If we go to Green Bay and we pull it out, awesome. We go to Green Bay, they beat us, fine. That's fine too. But I would focus on being in better shape for the Raiders and the Steelers because those games matter a lot more to what we're trying to do.
Brother, if you tell me you can have a full team against the Raiders and you can take the team that we thought we were going to play tomorrow against the Raiders to Green Bay, fine. Sign me up.
Yep.
Sign me up. Absolutely. Yes, the game that matters is the game against the Raiders. I think one other thing that has happened in the NFLPA, and I mentioned that report from earlier that the NFLPA, and you and I commented about it, about how the majority of that membership wants out of all of this. They want done. Leadership still doesn't want it. Leadership wants more testing. So the NFL PA is fighting that fight. The other thing that they're fighting right now, and you're seeing a lot of players, you mentioned KJ Wright, Darius Slay of the Eagles with a tweet here in the last 7 minutes. Damn, I thought the team would have to forfeit. This is crazy. Their organization is not informing their players
of what
the rules are.
Correct.
Because this is unvaccinated players was the forfeit. We have vaccinated humans, not unvaccinated humans. And I don't know that the NFLPA constituency necessarily knows what they agreed to. It's obvious by social media that they don't.
Clearly, and I think you stick on one thing, that there won't be rescheduling and there will be forfeiture, although that forfeiture only is assigned to outbreaks if there's an outbreak amongst unvaccinated people. That is not the case with the Browns. That's not the case in any of these. It's not the case in the NFL right now, quite frankly. There's no team that would have, I think, enough number of unvaccinated players be COVID positive that would cause a change in their plans. So for the Browns, you get to move this one to Monday. You get an opportunity now to go take care of your business against the Las Vegas Raiders. What that looks like, we don't know. But at a minimum, you're going to get, I would assume, some type of an opportunity for Nick Mullins to at least, familiarize himself with guys on this football team that he would be playing with, as opposed to working scout team or working with the backups. in advance of Monday if he still plays quarterback. There aren't any guarantees. I want to make that perfectly clear that this is going to drastically change our roster. I do think it could change for, a handful of people. The people that tested positive later probably are less likely than those that tested positive earlier. You just never know what's going to happen unless there's a complete change to protocol that anyone who's vaccinated asymptomatic doesn't have to test and can play. Now, if that's the protocol change, that needs to come down, I'm guessing, today or tomorrow, so that it impacts Saturday. So it impacts Saturday if the Patriots and the Colts are still playing Saturday, which I'm guessing they would, Sunday, Monday, and now there are going to be 2 games on Tuesday. But those games all need to be played under the same rules.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. You bring up something there that's pretty important, I think, when you talk about that's the other thing the postponement does, my friend, is it allows the entire league to play under the same rules.
Right.
Under the new protocol rules. And that way, because what I was fearful of yesterday was, oh, yeah, great, let's change the protocol rules after it affects us, the Rams, the football team. And the one thing the NFL is pretty good about is making sure that everybody is on level playing field, and they've done it, as well as can be done in 2 years amidst a pandemic, 2 straight seasons amidst a pandemic. And so what this allows, as you just alluded to, is it allows for the entire league now to be on the same page and under the same protocols for what in the heck week is this? Week 15? It allows for that.
It does, and I think that's part of the reason that these decisions were made, and I think Jay Glazer's obviously plugged in, and when he says that the protocols are probably going to change. Now, he said Monday. I really think that these protocols would have to change if it's to allow either go into effect Wednesday or they would have to go into effect tomorrow or today, early enough that the Patriots and the Colts would be able, if there are applicable players on those teams, would be able to make that adjustment. The game must be played under the same rules for everybody in this week and going forward. So it either has to start in entirety for this week or it has to start on Wednesday for the following week.
Yeah. So that is the lay of the land in what has been a crazy week in the National Football League. So much more to come. Real quick, there's so much going on. I got to make sure. I think we've done all the good things that need to be done for the people. Oh no, hold on, real quickly. There's so much juggling, my friend. I want to tell you about my great friends at Raising Cane's. Give the gift of Raising Cane's gift card this year so that everyone on your list can enjoy hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers. Also, let Raising Cane's help you through the busy holiday season with hot, fresh, made-to-order chicken finger meals. Download the Raising Cane's mobile app and get clicking for some chicken this holiday season. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For a running back, getting extra yards is great. Ball security, always the first priority. And for gamblers, keeping priorities straight, very, very important. Make sure all your bills are paid before you spend money on fun stuff like gambling. Get more tips like this at keepitfunohio.com. So all happening in the last hour. Our game moving from Saturday in the 4 o'clock window to the 5 o'clock kick on Monday. Browns and Raiders will take place on Monday. It'll be part of a Monday night doubleheader. The Bears and Vikings will follow that. The Tuesday night slate looks like it's going to be the Eagles and the football team playing in the early window, and then the Rams and the Seahawks in the late window. All of this and the backdrop being a continued change in protocols potentially happening as an agreement between the NFL and the NFLPA is being worked through, and that is where Gibby holds up a phone. Gibby, it's a record for phone hold-ups for me.
It is.
Go ahead.
This is from Dan Graziano. I'm told that a few Browns and Rams players have already met the testing requirements to be removed from the reserve COVID list under the new protocols that were announced Thursday. There's optimism that an extra 2 days could have a real impact on player availability.
That is huge news from Dan Graziano. Now you've got Casey Hayward, cornerback for the Raiders, taking a shot at J.C. Treader, saying, I'm sure the NFLPA president playing for the Browns didn't have any effect on these negotiations. And again, citing the erroneous report that games will not be postponed or rescheduled to avoid roster injuries caused by injury or illness affecting multiple players even within a position group. Again, the forfeiture, all of that stuff was about if there was an outbreak amongst unvaccinated players, not the point here with the Cleveland Browns. Good news from Graziano there. We don't even get to the scores. We gave out the Chiefs last night telepathically to you, so I hope that you took advantage of that. We'll give out all winners telepathically. I'm predicting a perfect week for us.
I was just going to say, would you guys have ever guessed that a year later, in 2021, we would do a show on a Friday like this, and for the first time since we've been doing this show together, no scores on a Friday?
No,
that's impossible.
It's beyond. So many things about this week are beyond my comprehension, and the fact that it just every day is something new it's really stunning. And you know, we do live in a time due to social media and all that where you have so much real-time information.
1 minute,
and you needed that. I mean, everything. You think about the show we did yesterday that was completely irrelevant and obsolete.
Yes.
2 hours later, in terms of Case Keenum being the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and then it's all right, learn about Nick Mullins, and then okay, now we're not even playing tomorrow. So it has been, a whirlwind to say the very, very least. But you know, we'll have full coverage for you over the weekend here as more things come out, and keep it tuned, I would say, to ClevelandBrowns.com, the Browns app, because you're going to find out there are going to be a lot of transactions if these protocols are put in place. And a listener made a good point. We did have a game last night, so this week started. So I'd imagine protocols can't officially change until Wednesday for Week 16.
That's a very good point. I will give you this little teaser. Had we done over-unders, we would have done so with Zegura 32 and 33 and Gibbe at 32 and 33.
Oh, boy. We're all tied up.
That just means he didn't want to go up against me. That's why he was on the phone for
guess what? Guess what? We've got a radio show on Monday.
You don't.
Before the game.
You don't.
We don't?
We don't?
No.
Why?
Well, if we kick at 5 o'clock, we have pregame starting at 1.
Ducking me. Classic.
What did I do?
Folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy the game now on Monday. The next level is next to continue to take you through your afternoon.